Have you ever looked at your Superfund statement or at a list of ASX companies and felt like the Australian market is just a smaller version of the US? Like the same rules apply, just with different logos? I thought that too when I first started investing. It turns out the ASX is structurally different from the US market in some really important ways. And if you don't understand those differences, you'll make decisions that work fine in America and backfire here. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what makes the ASX unique, what that means for how you invest, and why it matters for every dollar you put into the market.
Before we do though, quick disclaimer. Nothing in this video is financial advice. I'm not a licensed advisor. This is purely educational. Do your own research. Talk to a professional if you need to. All right, let's go.
Here's a number that I think every Australian investor should have in their head. Around 57% of the ASX 200, more than half the entire market, is made up of just two sectors, banks and mining companies. That's it. More than half the market, two sectors. And the dividend yield on the ASX right now is around 3.3%, more than double the S&P 500's average of around 1.5%. These two facts tell you almost everything you need to know about what kind of market the ASX is. And once you understand that, you start to see your super, your ETFs, and your whole portfolio differently. So what is the ASX in plain English? The ASX is a dividend and resources market, not a growth market. Let me say that again, because it's the most important sentence in this video. The ASX is a dividend and resources market, not a growth market. That doesn't mean you can't find great growth companies on the ASX. You absolutely can. But the market as a whole is built around income, around dividends, around commodity cycles. That's the DNA of this exchange. And that one distinction changes how you should think about investing here. Before we go deeper, it's worth stepping back and asking, how big is the ASX compared to the rest of the world? The answer might surprise you. Australia represents roughly 2% of global market capitalization. The United States, by comparison, makes up around 65%. Think about that for a moment. The entire Australian share market, all 200 companies in the ASX 200, is worth less than the 5 largest U.S. companies combined: Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, and Alphabet. 5 companies worth more than our entire exchange. This matters for two reasons. First, it tells you why the ASX doesn't move the same way as global markets. It has its own drivers. And second, it's why financial advisors often talk about diversifying beyond the ASX into global shares. Staying entirely invested in Australia means missing 98% of the world's publicly listed companies. Let's look at the numbers, because the contrast with the United States is quite striking. In the S&P 500, the main U.S. index, information technology is the biggest sector by far. It makes up around 32% of the entire index. Companies like Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Alphabet. That tech weighting has driven enormous returns over the last 15 years. Now look at the ASX 200. Technology? Just under 3%. Meanwhile, financial services, which is mostly our big 4 banks, makes up 33% of the ASX. And basic materials, mining and resources, adds another 24%. Together, that is 57.5% of the entire market. 2 sectors. In the S&P 500, those same 2 sectors add up to under 15%. That is a fundamentally different kind of market. You can really feel that concentration when you look at the names at the top of the index. Commonwealth Bank alone is roughly 11% of the entire ASX 200, just one company. BHP is next at around 9%. Then you see names like NAB, Westpac, ANZ, Rio Tinto, and Fortitude near the top as well. So even a quick scan of the top 10 tells the story. Banks and miners dominate the list. And together, the top 10 companies make up nearly half the whole index. That means when the big banks report or when iron ore prices move, the ASX often moves with them.
To make this concrete, let's look at the three cards on screen. Financial services, 33.3% of the ASX 200. Commonwealth Bank alone, just one company, represents roughly 11% of the entire index. If CBA has a bad result, the whole market feels it. Basic materials, 24.2%. BHP, Rio Tinto, Fortescue, all of them heavily tied to iron ore prices, which are largely set by Chinese demand. So when China's economy slows down, so does a large chunk of the ASX. And then technology, just under 3%. That's where the ASX has the least representation compared to global peers. There's no Australian equivalent of Apple or Microsoft by market weight. Understanding this concentration is the first step to understanding your own portfolio. Here's where this gets really personal. Most Australians have superannuation, and if you're in a default balanced fund, which most people are, somewhere between 20 and 25% of your super is invested in Australian equities. That means your super fund is heavily exposed to the concentrated ASX 200, banks and miners, and you probably haven't thought about it much because it all happens automatically. The same is true if you invest in popular ASX ETFs like VAS, A200, or IOZ. All three track the ASX 200 or 300. They're all exposed to the same concentration. A 2% fall in CBA or BHP moves your entire ETF position. None of this is a reason to panic. These are high-quality companies. But it is a reason to understand what you actually own and to think about whether you want to add some global diversification alongside your Australian holdings. Now, here's the mistake I see a lot, and it's an understandable one. People learn investing from US-based content, YouTube, podcasts, books, and then come to the ASX and apply the same rules. Things like chase high-growth tech stocks, avoid companies with high dividend yields because they're not reinvesting, look for the next big thing. Those frameworks make sense in a market where tech is 30% of the index. They work less well when the market is built around banks and mining companies that pay out large, regular dividends. On the ASX, a company with a 3 to 4% fully franked dividend yield can be an exceptional investment. On the S&P 500, you'd rarely see that yield on a high-quality business. The markets play by different rules.
And this brings me to something that is completely unique to Australia: franking credits. Here's how it works. When an Australian company earns a profit, it pays 30% corporate tax. Then it pays out a dividend to shareholders. Because the tax was already paid at the company level, Australian investors receive a credit for that tax. The practical effect, a 3.3% dividend yield on a fully franked Australian stock, can translate to an effective yield of around 4.7% for many Aussie investors because you're getting that tax credit back. No other major market in the world offers this. It's one of the genuine advantages of investing in Australian companies, and it's a big reason why the ASX dividend culture is so strong. And if you have money in superannuation, which most working Australians do, those franking credits are working in your fund's favour right now. So, with all of that in mind, how have the two markets actually performed? Over the last 10 years to around 2025, the ASX 200 delivered a total return of roughly 9.1% per year. The S&P 500 delivered around 12.7% per year in US dollar terms. On the surface, that looks like the US won easily, but look at where the return came from. On the ASX, roughly half that return, around 4 to 5 percentage points, came from dividends, income, money paid directly into investor accounts, often with franking credits attached. The other half was capital growth. On the S&P 500, almost all the return was capital growth. Less than 2% came from dividends. Investors made money because stock prices went up, largely because of tech. Neither approach is better or worse, but they're different, and which one suits you depends on your tax position, your stage of life, and whether you need income or growth from your portfolio. That's something worth understanding before you decide how to allocate. So, what's the one thing to take away from this video? The ASX rewards dividends and value, not growth and momentum. That doesn't mean growth companies can't succeed here. It means the market's DNA is different. And when you're building a portfolio, selecting stocks or evaluating a company's valuation, you need to apply the right framework for this market, not a US framework applied by default. Understand that distinction and you'll already be thinking more clearly than most beginning investors. If this video was useful, hit the subscribe button. It's the best way to make sure you see the next one when it comes out. I'll see you in the video.